All right, guys, bang, bang. I've got Ben Baller here. Dude is ready to crush it. Thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Nah, man, I appreciate it, bro. It's so funny. I'm just thinking, sorry, man. You got the New York hat on, I got an LA hat on, so it's hilarious, man. And I
For
didn't plan
sure.
that. I wasn't going to wear a hat, but I forgot to shave my head today, so I look kind of crazy with my Mr. Burns
That that
haircut.
that's why I got a hat on because my hair's all crazy. I can't get to a barber.
Yeah, man.
Let's jump into your background. I think a lot of people know you now as Ben Baller, the jeweler. Obviously, got the songs and everything kind of really riding the top of culture. But you had a whole nother life before the jewelry game. Maybe let's start just like where you grew up and kind of your life coming into high school and into college.
Well, you know what's really crazy is like I'll give you like a forward before we even get into that. It's just you know being a big jeweler in the game, and it's without an ego. You know, I'm people rank me the top three biggest jewelers in the world. Um, I think I'm even higher than that in a certain way. But I mean, I won Jeweler of the Year a few times. Where some of these people, or 99% of the people on Instagram, never been nominated. And there's millions of jewelers in the world, and to be recognized for not being orthodox. You know what I'm saying? Being totally unorthodox. T-shirt, not wearing a button down, not wearing a suit. Tattoos, whatever else. And one of the reasons why I never tattooed my face on my neck or my hands was because I knew I was going to meet Saudis. There's certain people to get in a room. Nowadays, it's not necessarily accepted, because I think if you walked into a meeting with some VCs in Silicon Valley and Atherton, you know what I mean, your face is tired, they'll be like, about how much money you make, it's kind of like, all right, dude, like, but going back and forth, it wasn't until about maybe 2 years ago, even after I won Jeweler of the Year, that I didn't consider myself a jeweler. And I've been doing this for 15 years. It is my main profession. It's my longest profession. But I always consider myself a Renaissance man because of all the things I've done in my life. So to go to the beginning, I've always had a love for hip hop culture. And, I'm 47. So when I grew up, it was sort of a taboo thing. It was exotic. It wasn't really out there like that. Obviously rock and roll was everything. It wasn't alternative back then. It was mod, modern music. When you listen to the Smiths and the Cure and things like that, then there was like metal and AC/DC. Then you got the country, and like hip hop was so foreign. I just adapted. I didn't even, I was born into it. I jumped, I didn't even dive deep in. I was born in it, trying to search for it, and now today it's the biggest format of music there is in the world, pretty much, right? It's the most influential. It's crazy. So with that said, I grew up with a graffiti background, breakdancing, DJ, and I was just in the streets. I came from a father who was a part-time minister, was he was a professor at UCLA for 30 years. And my father is very big on academics, very, very severe, super crazy traditional Korean, have to get fucking straight A's. I'm the youngest of 3 kids. My oldest brother, to give you an idea, my brother got a 1580 on his SAT score when he was 14 years old, and my dad put him in the hospital because he missed the one question. So, with that said, my sister, she did pretty well as well. My brother went to a school called Phillips Academy, Andover, which is a very prestigious high school. We didn't have any money going up. He had a 90% scholarship, and it's a boarding school, obviously. My sister went to Exeter, and then, my parents got divorced, and it was a wrap for me. I was getting straight A's in school because I was getting my ass beat, and it just wasn't for me. So around 6th grade, my parents got divorced, and I just was like, I became a latchkey kid. The parents got divorced, they separated. My mom could have won custody, but she's a workaholic. My mom's totally different. She was a dress contractor for most of her life. And my mom just always been a hard worker. She came from the era of when she could have taught a Harvard business class from just hard work ethic and how to execute it right. Well, now it's, you got to work smarter. A lot of people can work hard, right? You have to, there's Mexicans out here, Hispanics that are working insanely hard manual labor. I'm not speaking about that unless those people were able to turn it into a landscaping business or, things like that. My mom just knew how to do that. And she regrets putting the sewing machine in like people like Forever 21 or like, you know, just people, you know, like my mom put the sewing machine in a lot of people's hands, and they became very big in the garment industry and became some billion dollar companies. So anyways, I grew up in that household, and I was running the streets, DJing, just wanting to fucking listen to music and whatever else. And I wasn't a great student. I think I graduated high school with like a 2.75 GPA. I did get like a 13 something on my SAT after 3 times, which is still pretty good. And I think the basic stuff was like, you know, I think if I'd have took it one more, I would have got better, but I still couldn't get into any schools that I wanted to academically. And my dad was was the head of fucking Asian studies. You know, he's the head of Asian studies at UCLA, and I couldn't even get into UCLA and pay for it. Fuck a scholarship, right? So with that said, I got more serious about sports, and I love basketball, but I always felt like I was a year behind. And I don't know if it's something that I figured out in the last decade, which is crazy because I've been out of school for 30 years, right? And like, I figured out that when I left varsity basketball, I was like, damn, if I had one more year, I'd have done better. But you don't have that 1 year, you know, you got to move on. But football, I got it immediately. Even football, I could have even did better, and I kind of like slacked off. But I got a scholarship playing football at a Division I school, you know, so I ended up getting into college, good school. You enter a different world. You're the shit. All state, all county, all CIF, which is like one of the best, you know, it's the conference in California. There's not as many schools. There's not the programs that are now. You look at high school programs in Texas, and their football programs look nicer than NFL stadiums, right? And it's serious. And, you know, I get to college, and there's 113 people at camp. The next day, immediately, 20 people drop camp. Now the thing is, remember, there's no cell phones. There's pay phones. The pay phone, there was one, and then there's another one really far away. It's like a 2-mile walk just to get to the entrance of this Naval Academy in Vallejo, California. And people just don't want to do it. And for some reason, the bay doesn't really get hot like that, but it was really hot that day. And people were quitting and everything else. And my first day at camp, I just noticed I talked a lot of shit, but I wasn't as good as these people. I had guys and that were 300 pounds, and they're right behind me, chasing me. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, the level of athleticism is a whole different level. I'm like, man, I don't know if this is going to work. And I have the coaches telling me, hey, man, gang, you better step your shit up, you know? And I'm thinking like, fuck, man, you know, what am I going to do? You know, I mean, I wanted to not go to school, but I'm here now, so let me make the best of it. And it was just crazy. And then someone stole my cleats the first week of so they're talking shit to me and everything else. And it was a struggle. I get to school. I ended up playing a little bit here and there, but I realized because I wasn't a starter and I wasn't a star, there was a lot of different, like things where they could pull your scholarship, you know, if you're not playing right here and there, whatever. But meanwhile, the star players, never saw them in class, never saw these guys doing anything. The homework's getting done for them. They're at least getting a 2.7, 3.0 average. They're going to get all their shit taken care of. They're the booster program there with the alumni. You know, I had a guy who was pushing the gym lights. Like the lights and then the things to put the stands and the basketball courts away. I mean, it would maybe take 15 minutes to push all these lights in a gym, and he was getting, you know, $50 an hour back in like 91. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, I'm like still trying to whatever. So I figured that, okay, what am I going to do here? This is an academic school. This ain't working out. So I ended up transferring over to a Division II school across the bridge at San Francisco. On top of that, they had a film school there, which was Nicolas Cage's dad, who's Francis Ford Coppola's brother, Augusto Coppola. He's the head of the dean of cinematography there. And so I said, all right, well, look, I could play basketball and football here. I can flourish, kind of get this going and whatever. Even still, I missed home. But it was there that my love for the Bay Area became like very heavy. And, even though I was born and raised in LA, I have an apartment in San Francisco. A lot of my business are in San Francisco, and I was there way before the 2011, 2012 Uber and all the app smash, and before even the .com shit and everything, right? And I've always had a fond feeling for San Francisco, so that was something in the back of my head. Whatever. Finished college, I start PA work, which is slave work, and then I realized, what the fuck does this have? What does getting coffee building someone's house, grabbing someone's contact lenses. What the fuck does this have to do with the film industry? This is the stupidest shit in the world. Like, I don't get it. And it's just LA. You know, everyone's coming to LA to be an assistant or be this, and this. And after like 4 or 5 movies, I was like, man, this shit ain't cutting it. So my sister got me a job as a promoter at the world famous Roxbury nightclub, you know, Night at the Roxbury, right? And it was like funny. So I started working there as a promoter. And long story short, I hated promoting, but a lot of celebrities were there and whatever. And I was going about the wrong way. Like, hey, like I would see like Sylvester Stallone, like, hey man, hey, I'm a promoter. Hey, you should come out here, boom. And people like, hey man, don't talk. Are you fucking crazy? You don't talk to celebrities or whatever. And I was like, bitch, I was born and raised in LA. I see these guys. I thought because I was part of the club, I can kind of talk to these people. Bottom line is I kind of started still figuring my way out. But my passion was DJing and music. So one night the DJ didn't show up to the Roxbury. He was smoking crack. And I had an opportunity to DJ. So I lived 5 blocks away from the Roxbury in this shitty ass apartment, had roaches and all kinds of stuff. The day I moved into this apartment, there was fucking epidermic needles inside the fucking cabinets. I'm like, holy shit. It was a very heavy, predominant like gay area, whatever. Not that that makes a difference, but it was just a fucked up place. And I was like, you know what, dude, it's cheap. I'm very close to good shit. Boom. I go home, grab my records, come back. I do a pretty decent job. They give me the night there at a super fraction of the rate. And I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. That starts going good. A buddy of mine who was a very good friend of mine, his dad was investing in a new restaurant, and they had a restaurant that was successful. It was the only soul food, like high-end 5-star soul food restaurant that Denzel Washington or Nixon, Debbie Allen, this one black socialite guy, Brad Johnson, they owned it. They're opening a new spot called Creek Alley, and Denzel was one of the main guys. And they're gonna make it like, I don't know how old you are, but back in the day, Moomba was like, it was a restaurant, but it had like music, it had ambiance, you know, it was like a good thing. So I was like, hey man, I'm ready to, you know. So I waited outside the fucking place while they're building this place. And one day, sure enough, there's this gift, it was like a retail store called 40 Acres and Mules, Spike Lee's merch stop. And Denzel Washington's car was parked in front of there, so I just waited until he came out. Like I literally waited, it was hours. I just shot the shit with people in the store, blah, blah. So he gets there, I give him my fucking tape, and I'm like, hey man, I know you're opening the restaurant, man. I want to give you my thing. And he's like, it's not a nightclub. Like, why are you having me this? I was like, well, I know you like hip hop and I want to provide the music. And if you don't like this tape, I'll work for free for, you know, a year. And I was working for so cheap anyway. I was doing whatever I could to survive. And sure enough, you know, a week later, assistant calls me. He's like, hey man, you got a job here. Boom. I go in there and it's like a full state-of-the-art DJ system. It's probably the nicest DJ setup I've ever seen in a nightclub. I'm like, the fuck? And it's not a nightclub, it was a bar, Jamaican restaurant. From there, I had met people prior, like from DJ, I met Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, a lot of rappers that were working at this nightclub. It was an all ages club. The founders of the club was my best friend, Nick Adler, whose father is Lou Adler, rock and roll legend, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Cheech and Chong, beyond, like insane, you know, California Dreamin', Mamas and the Papas, he produced that song, like insane. He was like my, you know, kind of like my illegitimate godfather. He, you know, helped me tremendously with my career. So his son was my best friend, loved hip hop. Him and David Faustino, who's Bud Bundy from Married with Children, and another guy, they started this club called Ballistics, and it became huge. It was at the world famous Whiskey A Go-Go, where, you know, the Doors, every single rock bands performed there, James Brown. And Nick Adler's dad owned the place. So we're doing this thing there. I was the DJ. I met, I'm trying to think of someone people would know, but will.i.am, who's the lead rapper, the head of Black Eyed Peas. A lot of people also don't understand that will.i.am was the founder of Beats by Dre. He actually came up with the concept and everything. And he was a battle rapper, just on the stage, broke, no money, nothing. Exhibit, who was a pretty famous rapper, was up there. There's some pretty big underground hip hop people. And it was a platform, you know? And so, you know, I get this job, and the first week I DJ there, they do the Black Oscar party there. And I'm like, holy shit. And obviously Denzel, you know, like I meet everybody, Quincy Jones, blah, blah, whatever. And then like right after that, I'm doing the Black Grammy party. I'm like, this is fucking insane. So I meet Dre, I meet Pac, I do Jada Pinkett's birthday. So all these people started to gravitate towards me because I was a good DJ and I was doing these things. And one night, DJing, and a couple fights had broken out, and people are like, oh, you know, they're like, hey, listen, we don't want this to be a stereotypical club where fucking fights break out and there's fucking, they're like, oh, they're worried about drug dealers and all the racism against black people. We got to keep this shit classy. Yo, man, you can't play any music after like 84. So if you want to play some fucking, you know, some Earth, Wind and Fire and some Al Green, shit like that, cool. You can't play with hip hop. And I was like, fuck, man. One night, the owners of the club, they went to Vegas to go see an Oscar De La Hoya fight. They're flying in a private jet. So we're watching the fight at the bar. The general manager's my boy. He was 15, 20 years older than me. And I was like, okay, this guy don't give a fuck. He was messing with some chicks. And I knew already he's about to go get his dick sucked in the fucking office. He didn't give a fuck what was going on. So I wanted to make sure these guys were going to Vegas to be at the fight. And at the fastest, they're going to hang out, watch the fight, maybe have a couple drinks, and then fly back by a certain time back to LA. So I seen Dr. Dre sitting down ready to watch the fight. And I said, all right, fuck this. I'm playing all hip hop. I'm playing everything that, I don't care if I get fired. This is my shot. So I gradually go from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then obviously now to the 90s, current hip hop. I take the fights off. I take all the sports off the TV screens, and there's a big movie screen. And I put all black exploitation films, the Mac, Superfly, all the shit. And Dre's bugging. Everyone's in this place. NBA players, Lakers and stuff. And I have a guy who's my buddy. I'm like, hey man, play for like 20 minutes. I'm gonna go to the bar and get a drink. So I go down. Everyone can see me. I'm like elevated way up in the sky. And I go down and I sit like 10 streets next to Dre. And I know that Dre would, you know, and sure enough, Dr. Dre's like, hey man, fuck you know about that music, bro? Like, you what are you, Chinese? What are you, like, you playing all this like real funk? Like, you're playing some real shit. Like, what's up? And I was like, oh man, my brother's your age, you know? And I knew a lot about Dre then before the internet even existed. And I was like, you know, I just been a big fan of hip hop, and you know, this is what I'm doing, and you know, I music's my life. And so he's drinking a Long Island iced tea. I'll never forget this. It's crazy, right? This is 25 years ago. And he buys me a drink, and he goes, yo man, do me a favor, man, you got a number? And I was like, back then I had a pager. I had no cell phone, no nothing. I had a house phone and I had a pager. And the pager, it's like, boom. So get the pager number, and 3 days later, like on Monday, he pages me to go to the studio and bring some records. Next thing I know, I'm working with Death Row Records. I'm DJing, scratching, doing stuff. I'm seeing Suge, and I'm seeing all this crazy stuff. And I'm really starstruck at this point. And I've been very little, I've been starstruck less than a handful of times in my life. And then he tells me, he's like, hey man, you know, I'm in a situation here. It's kind of getting tricky. And this had been brewing up between his beef with Suge and what was going on. And he was trying to leave trying to leave Death Row and start his own company, because there was a lot of things. It was like, if you watch the NWA story, there was a lot of friction between obviously Eazy-E and NWA. They all broke up, boom. And then now there's another situation. So I didn't know what was going on, but he's like, hey man, I got a dude you need to talk to. He's the guy that gave us our first deal, boom. Next thing I know, I meet this Jewish dude named Brian Turner, who owned Priority Records. And the craziest thing, these chicks that I was hanging out with, they were a lot older than me. They were 5 or 6 years older than me. You know, when you're 21 and trying to figure things out, 22, and the girl's 27 or 28, it's definitely, you know, it's a big, especially back then. Now it's like, but we were hanging out with these chicks, and all 4 of them were pretty hot. One of them tells me she just started dating this guy, and I was like, oh man, you know, like, fuck that dude, you know, and I'm trying to like hook her up with my boy. Somehow, some way, I connect her with the president of Priority Records, who's an enormous mogul. They get together, they get serious, they get engaged, they get married, they've had kids and everything, boom. So I was like part of that. So this guy took me in. I wasn't in the mail room, but I was an A&R manager. So that's like the bottom of A&R, but you still got some clout, you know. And within 2 years, I became vice president of Priority Records. You know, we had Jay-Z, signed Jay-Z's first album deal. We had Master P. We obviously had Ice Cube and a lot of things going on. Dre hits me and says, hey man, I finally got my situation straight. What you want to do? I just signed a 2-year contract for $100,000 a year for the next year to be $125,000. I have an expense account. I could go eat at fucking Spago's or Mr. Chow's and charge for the company. I could even buy like something nice. My whole life's a write-off at this point. Everything's free. I have flights. I have a cell phone. I mean, I just had everything. I have great benefits. I had a 401k. And Dre said he had a pretty decent infrastructure, but he didn't have this corporation with small companies like, yo, what do you want to do? Now, this is the guy that gave Dre his start pretty much. And I tell my boss, and I'm like, hey man, I got an offer, I gotta be honest with you. And he's like, we've never had any kind of static. He's like, you know what kind of a punk kid you sound like right now? You're young as hell. You have a lot of talent. You're doing well. We have big things. He goes, listen, I promise, man, stay here. Don't leave. But if you want to leave, then go ahead. I didn't respond back to what he said, and he knew immediately. So he's like, yo, dude, just get the fuck out of here. And I felt bad, but I wanted to work with Dre. He's a legendary dude. I go work with Dre. I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs for 3 years because I think he was trying to figure out his life and everything else. But he signed Eminem. Eminem became huge. Finally, he drops his second album. It took 6-7 years to drop an album. And back then, it's ridiculous. Like now, it's even ridiculous. But back then, it was like unheard of to wait that long to drop a solo album. He put out like other albums, right? But anyways, that being said, I got lost in the mix. There was no one I could really work with. We had 11 artists signed to the label. None of that shit really mattered because Dre was focused on Eminem, his solo thing. So I kind of signed a couple big producers there and whatever. Meanwhile, throughout all this that's going on, I became a pretty big nightclub DJ. When I say big, I was like, if you ever heard a guy named Mark Ronson, he's a very big DJ. He's enormous now in the music business, and even more than that. Me and Mark were probably very comparable to each other in careers, and he was DJing all the high nightclubs in New York. I was DJing the best clubs in LA. Once in a while, he'd fly to LA and guest spot. I would go to New York and guest spot as well. And it's one of those things. I had a billboard in Vegas before any of these big EDC, like all these nightclubs are having these big DJs come all over the world from Tiesto and Calvin Harris, whatever. So I had a flourishing DJ career. I had a lot of clout as being head of A&R Aftermath, but the music business just kept being too political. Like, hey man, we gonna make this record big this year. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you're gonna spin this record here. And I'm like, man, fuck this chick. Like, what are you talking about? I'm about to play this. But no. And it got political even in the clubs where it was hard for me to say no to play a record for 2 minutes, And then I started understanding what Payola was and things like that and bribes. And I was like, yo, man, I've let myself get so infiltrated and so my mind got so polluted and so corrupt with so pretty much I wasn't playing what I wanted to play anymore. And I wasn't even playing for the people anymore. I was like doing things and I just started to hate the music business. DJing was like, all right, the only last thing left. I leave Aftermath. I'm still DJing. This is the part that gets tricky. I start selling drugs. And no cocaine. I know it sounds weird, right? I wasn't dealing with because the sentences were different. You get busted for weed, like if you're selling 1 million pounds, you might get 10 years, whatever, which is an insane amount of time. But you sell, a fucking ounce of coke, man, you're going to jail for 30 years, so it's different. So anyways, going on, I started selling weed and it was profitable. It was very well. I was doing it very low key and I was doing a certain amount and I was running damn near fucking, crazy weed shit, having vacuum sealers, shipping packages. I had drivers going to interstate and everything else. I was doing that while DJing. And with that, it was affording me not to DJ 4 or 5 nights a week. I could DJ 1 or twice a week. Only the biggest premier hot clubs were Paris Hilton, Supermodels would be up at, fucking Kobe, you name it. And I'd pull up to the nightclub in a Porsche. And a Porsche is small. It has a trunk in the front, and I would bring like 1.5 crates. I had an assistant that came out, and I just started getting crazy, whatever. But throughout that time, I never invested anything. All my money was cash. So with that, besides buying like stupid shit like Louis Vuitton or Gucci and things like that, I was buying sneakers, an enormous amount of sneakers. When I got to like 100, 200 pairs, I was like, holy shit, I don't have space for this. So I moved into a 3-bedroom apartment in the Valley, in San Fernando Valley in Sherman Oaks, California. And, people were like, why do you got a 3-bedroom? Why don't you buy a house? And this, that. I couldn't because I wasn't, well, not going to incriminate myself on here, but, basically, I just said, hey, man, I'm going to sell sneakers on the side, right? While I'm doing this, this, and this. Now, meanwhile, drug money's cool. I wasn't like, a cartel person. So like I was making good money, but it wasn't ridiculous to the point where it was any retirement shit or anything. And I knew that this was a very short-lived career until you get arrested or whatever. So I was just buying sneakers and I was stocking up on anything rare. And it was just something that I had a hobby with. buying them 2001, 2002. In 2002, Nike hit me up because I'd been on the very early sneaker message forums. There was only two. One of them was very big. It was called Nike Talk. And it was no affiliation to Nike, but it was just a Nike fan site. And this thing produced a lot of enormous people. Kayne West was on there. Just a lot of rappers, a lot of big streetwear people. And we would do buy and trades and sells. And it was like the first social media. Like we would post, what did you wear today? Oh, what shoes are you wearing? You know, boom. And sneaker values were going up and up and up. And we started realizing this is like baseball cards, but on a whole different level. So around 2003, late 2003, I have about 1,800 personal pairs of sneakers, 1,800. People who have 500 pairs today are considered like insane sneaker collectors, right? I remember at 500, my mom said, you know, when you had a couple, I was like, hey, you know, 100 pairs of shoes is a lot, you know, maybe something's wrong with you. You know, maybe you should go see someone to see, you know, to consult if maybe mentally you're okay, maybe something's wrong with your brain. Then it got to 500 and she's like, hey man, you know, something maybe is really wrong with you. And at a point she didn't understand it was a business and I didn't understand it was a business. I was bartering, I was selling things, but I was buying shit just to support my habit. If I didn't like a pair of shoes, I was buying 3 pairs and people couldn't get one. I just had built these connections throughout Tokyo, London, New York, Philly, some parts of Atlanta, Baltimore, and I was doing all this shit and, you know, working with Nike, doing marketing campaigns with them. I have a fallout with Nike the same way I do with the music business. It became very political, very, and I don't care. Listen, at this point, I'll speak freely. I heard the Gap is run, or it was run very like, not like Scientology, but it was very run like very strict, like a weird thing. We don't do this. I started noticing that. Like I was wearing a polo one day and I get an email like, hey, yeah, we make polos at Nike, so you can't wear a polo into the store. It's considered competition. I'm like, we do parties at this house. It was an energy house. And she's like, yeah, we saw that you put a flyer on Nike Talk. You said parties. We don't do parties at Nike. We do events. And I was like, all right, here we go, trying to influence the narrative and what I could say and how language is. And I was like, I saw people doing that. And I was like, you know, man, I'm too free, man. I'm like, I can't do this shit. So I'm excited. I'm about to release my first sneaker collaboration with Nike in 04, started in 03. And again, certain things I can say, the language, and I was like, yo, man, you know what, man, I was fed up at this point. I stopped selling weed around 02, and I had saved enough money here and there. I was like, you know what, man, fuck this. I also spent a lot of money on just stupid shit, a lot of meals, everything. In 2004, I finally said, you know what, fuck Nike. I went on my website, which was a very big sneaker website called benball.com, and I had no page. You couldn't buy shoes, you couldn't look at shoes. It was just a one-page front and said, fuck Nike, in Arial block letters, very big. And when I looked at the IP addresses, because you could search, you know, who's with your page, there are so many from Portland, Oregon, like Beaverton, Oregon, Portland, Oregon. I'm like, oh shit. And then I get this message, hey, Ben, we want to let you know that, you know, we're not going to cut relationships with you. We don't want to talk to you. But I was like, bitch, I'm going to give a fuck you. But at that point, she was even telling the owners of very big sneaker stores, like that they were in business, and hey, if you let Ben in your store, and of course, it's allegedly, you know, bitch, I know. They're saying, if you let Ben in your store, we're going to have to pull your Nike account. So they're trying to blackball me from these stores. I was like, oh, okay. All right. So I gathered my sneaker collection. I started selling off small parts here and there. Some of the bigger, like more general release shoes that were like $200-300, whatever. I started moving them to Yokohama, Tokyo, Japan. And I decided to put an auction up, and it had to be 2 different auctions. The auctions hit every message form. It hit message forms that weren't even like sneaker related. And the auction started growing on eBay. Like, oh shit, here we go. I was like, oh, we knew. And it was like, I started, and I truly did, because it never happened before. I started what is now called the reseller game, Gordon Gekko style. Both auctions end at just under $2.9 million. Now I've become a millionaire for the first time in my life by accident, which I say it's not by accident, but I mean, I didn't intentionally do that, but still at the end of the day, you know, from that point forward, I knew everything I've been doing in life meant something. And so, you know, I went and bought a Ferrari. The immediate day the check cleared, you know, I went to that. I went and fucking did a bunch of silly shit. I'd go to restaurants and order 6 drinks. I'd have an iced tea, orange juice, a Sprite, Coke, an alcoholic beverage, and other shit. When I buy appetizers, you know, I'd finish what I can. And I was never that guy. And then, my fiance at the time, she was a supermodel. And she was the one who obviously the breadwinner in our house. And she was like, hey, man, I got to be honest with you. You know, I don't know who the fuck you are, one. You turned into a total douchebag. And this just isn't working out. And I was like, fuck, man. I was like, I'll find another girl. I ain't tripping, you know, blah, blah, whatever. She leaves. I fucked up, by the way. I got caught cheating on the girl. She never caught me. She knew, though, that was what was going on. Women have a great intuition. And I just started seeing my life kind of spiral like down. And I was like, fuck, man. I got depressed. I actually went to go see a therapist for the first time in my life. I was smoking way more weed than usual. I was drinking. I was even taking pills. I was being just a little reckless. And I said, hey, man, you know what? I need to fucking get some culture. I need to get a passport and see the world and do something I've never did and I want to do. Boom. So I travel. I think I had about 20 countries in a 6-month span. And I'm trying to figure out what the fuck I'm going to do next. And I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. I thought about opening up a business. I was going to open a barbershop that was like, you go there, buy some dope white tees. You can buy some other cool clothes, some trinkets, all the cool shit that hip hop people like. Boom, come out of town and there it is. And I was like, yo, man, this ain't it. I know I was not going to ever work in food because I worked at Burger King when I was in high school. I worked at Subway. Like, I hate any kind of, food business is just a nightmare. I wouldn't want to invest in a restaurant. I don't care how successful, just that shit just brought back bad memories of being like a slave and busboy and drive through. And I was just like, no, fuck this, even on a nicer level restaurant. So I came back. I had a mentor at the time, Mr. Cartoon, was a world famous tattoo artist. And he gave me a lot of good advice, you know, and I hit up my cousin who had been doing jewelry for a long time. His dad, my uncle, had been a jeweler. They're in a pretty seedy part of South Central LA, in the hood, in the ghetto. And I go sit down, just drive and take a drive to his shop. And it's like, you know, it's the hood. I go there once in a while to get white tees and socks. And just sometimes I used to get sneakers down there. And like, you know, this is after the riots, obviously, way after, it's 2004. And I see my cousin has a Corvette. And that was like a nice car. You know, he had a Corvette. I have a Ferrari, but at the same time, I also have a Rolls Royce. It was weird. And I didn't want to go to Slauson to South Central in the Rolls Royce. So, you know, I borrowed my friend's BMW. I drive down there and I see my cousin's car. I didn't know it was his car. And it had an iridescent paint job. So it was like green, pink, blue. It was a chameleon. I was like, dude, this is the biggest douchebag whoever drives this car. I know it's my cousin's car. He tells me he's doing he's lucrative business. It's very good, you know, blah, blah. Consider it. And he had proposed this to me in 97 when I got in the music business to like bring Bone Thugs and Harmony, bring, you know, Dr. Dre, anybody, bring some celebrities here so we can get this business going. So we agree the Korean way, which is just a handshake. And I said, hey, listen, we got to at least start an LLC. Our parents have not spoke to each other because they fuck each other over in business and they didn't do things the right way. Let's at least have some paperwork. You know, the handshake was one thing. So, you know, we started LLC. I said, hey, there's some conditions. Let's start this business. Boom. Next thing you know, I have an insane Rolodex from the music business and being out in the nightclubs and, you know, whatever. And, you know, I work with Travis Barker. I work with Mariah Carey. I work with the Clips, Pusha T, and these guys, legendary hip hop group. And things start to take off. My mentor and idol in the game is a guy named Jacob the Jeweler, Jacob and Co. And Jacob went to jail for money laundering. And when he went to jail, no one wanted to talk to him. So I had to get in with Diddy and these other big celebrities. And so now this guy had killed us, making millions upon millions. They all started shifting slowly my way. But it also opened for other New York dealers to flourish as well. But that's where it started. And then, you know, I just went in increments. 09, the recession hit, and I realized, I was like, wow, I've never seen nothing like it. My parents have never seen a recession like that in their lives. 09, it's getting really bad. And I said, all right, I need to figure something out because I'm about to quit jewelry. This is ridiculous. So I had somewhat of a name. People on MySpace knew me. I was popular enough. And I started creating jewelry that wasn't $25,000, $50,000, $60,000. And I started making jewelry that was $1,000 to $2,000. I mean, 3,000 max. I started making these pieces and it was a little more, it was kind of like the style to wear like little classy diamond chains. Just be, you know, keep it like Major League Baseball. Don't keep it hip hop. And that did pretty well. I met my wife in 09 and we got together and she became like a good luck charm for me and things started turning around. And even parts of 2010, people were doing bad. I started to do really well, like in February. And next thing you know, I just take my marketing. I've never had a real agent, anything else. I get a small reality show later on Fuse Network. They dumb the shows down, put them on Google, which is YouTube. And, just each year, I just took it to another level. And then, I can't tell you how many rappers have said my name in a song. And then, there's hit songs, things like that. And then I incorporated my side brand, Ben Ball did the chain. And, I had money coming in from different directions, from streetwear, from jewelry, from appearances. And I finally, it took so long in life, even though I'm represented by WME, I had CAA before that. That's theatrical. They try to get into business. They never understand the influencer marketing thing. They're getting it now. But one, I hate that word influencer. I fucking can't stand that word because I have too much talent and there's too much that I do for me to be called that. So I finally just recently got with a real big agency and they've taken it to a whole different level, like partnerships with Snickers, with Moet Hennessy, K-Swiss, Puma, Nike, just a bunch of things. And I'm starting to get things. And even though I'm not for everyone, I have a very brash, I have a very foul mouth. I'm very outspoken. I'm not for every company, but we started to find the companies that can look past that. And I've been okay. I just obviously can't say fuck Trump and things like that, so freely, or I don't talk about religion and things like that. But that's where we are today in the gist.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go back to the aftermath days. I think a lot of people just are like, that's a time of hip hop where everyone was like, man, that was the golden era, was when all that was going on. What is the number one memory you have of working there with Dre and kind of all the work that they were doing?
The number one memory was I had an ego out of control. I've never changed. I think my mom has said this last year. She said, you've never changed. If anything, you've polished some areas, you always had confidence and money never changed you. It enhanced, certain things about you. But that period of your life, you were definitely a piece of shit. My mom's saying this, right? She was very proud of me, but at the same time, this was embarrassing because, Koreans, they want you to be a doctor, a lawyer, blah, blah. I'm like, look, man, that's the worst job to be in now. I mean, not offense. I mean, my attorney and my doctor are great people, but ego out of control. I'm making $150,000 a year. And I'm starting to see checks. I wasn't getting this $5,500 a month paycheck. That's, after taxes and everything else, blah, blah, whatever, you get your paychecks and things. I was getting bonuses and points and things like that, And I remember Dre wrote me a really big check. I've never had a check I've never had a six-figure check in my entire life. And he pulls me to the side and he says, hey man, making $1 million is easy. Keeping it is not. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? I'll make $1 million. I thought $1 million, even then I'm 24. I thought once you become a millionaire, you stay a millionaire. I didn't know, why would I know? So pulls me aside and he bought everyone an Expedition. This was the hottest SUV out. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a ton of people, but he bought the 8 guys, Expeditions, and he bought 3 or 4 girls, Explorers that worked in the company. And I was like, dope. And everyone got their checks. A lot of these guys would make more money because they had points and their producers and their artists and stuff. But, he pulls me to the side. He goes, what are you gonna do with the money? And I'm like, why are you asking me? That's fucked up. Did you ask them? Did you ask Butter? Did you ask Mel? Did you ask Chris? Why you fucking with me? And he goes, you're my Asian, man, and I think you have more potential, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I don't know, man, bro, I never had money before, what am I gonna do? You're like, I wanna get a Versace shirt. He goes, okay, get a Versace shirt, what are you gonna do? And I was, I don't know, man, why you, he goes, because, man, look at, man, don't be an N-word. And I was like, what? And I was like, man, okay, whatever. I really wasn't paying attention. I was focused on going to the BMW dealership, Century West BMW. It was in the back of my mind. I just had to go. And he was like, man, listen, man, just be smart. And I was like, okay, fine. I go straight to Century West BMW. I go buy an M3. Left there. I was there an hour and a half doing paper glove. I left there. I go to this place called JR's Jewelers in Sherman Oaks, and I buy a Rolex with diamonds in it. I come back to the studio because the studio, our hours are different. Dre will work till 3, 4 in the morning, 2 a.m. You know, so I go back to Aftermath Studios and I pull up in the car and everything else, blah, blah. I don't say anything because I don't want Dre to be mad, right? The dude who runs the studio is also Dre's like right-hand man. He tells him what's going on. Hey, man, this one here, this. And we have a ton of security because you can't just go in there. We had ID cards and everything. So it starts going around the studio. Hey, man, Ben Baller, yo, man, Ben Yang, yo, Ben Yang and Ben Baller, man, yo, he bought this BMW, dog, shit got chrome wheels, man, this, that, blah, blah. Oh, man, this motherfucker, man, he went out there and did this. And so from what I heard, Dre got up, like literally out of his seat. They said he got up, was like, yeah, a beat is just being made. Like he's making a beat. Like he's like, you know, like halfway into making a song, stops it, walks out of Studio B, walks into the kitchen. I'm making a roast beef sandwich with all this extra mayo, cinnamon, blah, blah. I'm like, whatever. And he goes, oh, you having a nice sandwich? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, oh, what's up, Dre? I was like, DR, man, what's up, man? And he goes, so what's up, man? What'd you do today? And I was like, oh, man, you know, I was like, I never had a Rolex before, you know? So like, you know, boom. And he goes, oh, that's a nice watch, man. It's a nice watch, man. You didn't buy anything else? And I was like, well, I mean, yeah, I bought a couple things. He's like, oh, did you get a Versace shirt? I was like, nah, I didn't I'll get one this week. He goes, nah, you don't need to get one this week. I was like, why? He goes, because that's your motherfucking black BMW out there on chrome wheels and everything else. And I was like, man, I wanted a nice car. And he goes, you have a nice car. You know, you got a Lexus and you have an Expedition. And most people at your age don't even have 2 cars, let alone you have a 3rd car. I was like, well, no, I'm selling the Lexus. And he goes, and he didn't speak to me for almost a month. That was probably my most memorable moment, one of the most memorable moments. And he was just disgusted with me. Now, the funny thing was all that money went. So when I left Aftermath, I had no money. I was broke. I spent everything.
It's crazy how he saw it coming, right? But you got to kind of learn the lessons for yourself. And then on
I needed that lesson, by the way. I think I needed that kick in the ass.
Yeah, well, that's what happens, right? And then on the Nike Talk forums, you were wild, man. I had a lot of people telling me when I said what I was going to do, they're like, yo, you got to talk to him about the Nike Talk forums. He was going wild on there.
You know, there's moderators and admin on these. I don't know how. I don't think any other message forum was this crazy. Even like I've been part of car message forums, Ferrari forums, everything else ever, and there's people here and there, and people have jokes and whatever. This was like a real legitimate forum back in the day, and I was like, not the first, because I didn't know you could get banned, but I got banned like 2 or 3 times immediately, and then I became one of the most banned people on that site. Then they IP banned me where I had to go change internet providers to go watch the site, know what I mean, start to create a name, whatever. It was crazy. So I started to play nice. I started realizing, because I would talk shit. I would literally, this is the thing. I grew up in the streets where we talk shit to each other. No one's going to go call the police or call the Me Too movement or whatever, blah, blah. And look, are some of the words wrong? Yeah. Okay, I get it. Bagging on somebody? Look, man. The shaming thing is just so fucking ridiculous. Now someone's like, oh man, you're fat, you're old, you're washed up. I'm going to come and retaliate back and kill you again. You ain't gonna get a shot. No, that's what we did. We shot shit to each other all day long. Now it's like, hey man, did you really just fat shame that person? Man, shut the fuck up, bro. Listen, I'm not with that pussy shit, man. Everyone's so sensitive today and everything else. But you know, I mean, it was just a different thing. I would talk crazy. And so, I helped a lot of people on that site though. And one day I went, this was during the time, was like one of the most famous things was, I found out that these Nike skateboard shoes that called SB Dunks were gonna come out. And I found out early. So I did a trip all the way from Oregon down to San Diego, the entire West Coast. And I cleared out 40% of the SB stock. I put all of them in storage and didn't even look at I think I let like 40 pairs go for like a lot of good friends and sold at retail, whatever, blah, blah. I put them away and I forgot about them. I forgot they even existed. You have to understand, I've never been a type of person to save money. I've never been a save person, whatever. This was like, I was like, you know what? These gonna burst something. I just had a hunch. I didn't have like this IPO thing where you're like, oh, it's, you know, but I had a hunch in an IPO sense, like this is gonna fucking blow up. And sure enough, there wasn't enough supply to go around. It wasn't a big release. And it wasn't a big release on purpose. It was just, I mean, like they did that on purpose, like, oh, it's limited edition. It was a skateboard marketed shoe. They didn't know if it was gonna do well or not. And hear me, I you know, again, Gordon Gekko mentality, I clear the shit out. So when I did that, I posted a big picture in my living room with all the shoes lined up. And I said, yo, you guys keep posting your collections, right? What about the stockroom picks, fam? I created a term called stockroom picks. It became a rule on Nike Talk, one of the new rules, because anyone posting stockroom picks will be banned from this site, blah, blah. Because it didn't do anything but it promoted it back. You know what I mean? Now you're not collecting anymore. Now you're reselling, even though I was a collector. You're looked upon. Now I'm taking other people who want to get shoes and I'm selling to them for 4 or 5 times the price, and it just fucks up the game. This is the early part. Now there's StockX, there's Coke, there's Stadium Goods, there's Flight Club. There's so many different websites you can buy shoes from, and there's so many reseller stores. So anyways, I found this out early. So the stockroom picks pissed everybody off. Then for all the people that were banned, like for real, and they couldn't get a new IP address, they created Hood Talk, which was the Nike Talk hater page. It was called Hater Talk at first, but somehow, some way we violated a bunch of rules. So they got the website, the forum banned, and then it became Hood Talk. And it was basically, there were forums in there, general forum, boom, then name all the moderators and admins you think are haters, and they would Photoshop pictures of them, post their addresses, fuck these people, whatever. Then they had shit where could obviously post porn in Nike Talk, but like there was a porn section, then there was joke section, then there was this, then there was a section where all you do is roast each other. Like, oh man, you love this shitty ass mustache. Yo, Pomp, you're still wearing the fucking wired air. What's up with the AirPods? Why you got that cheap ass hat? That's a 47. That ain't even a real new era. Like, it was just bag sessions going on. And it was so much xenophobia, racism, every possible homophobia, just crazy. People were just going loose on there. And they're like, you know, man, Ben's really active on this thing. And it was just, I was like, you guys are snitches. And I just talked so much shit on there. I don't think I ever even grew up. I never even like matured. I just acted like throughout the entire time. And then at a certain point, I became really popular on the page, and people were just like, yo, people would call me out like, oh man, you ain't doing shit with your life, blah, blah, whatever. And when I got my first place I bought, I posted pictures of it, posted pictures of my cars, things like that. And so I was like just flexing on there heavy, and people hated it. But some people were like, hey man, you know what? He did it himself. You know, he made the money himself. He didn't come from no rich family. Every, you know, guys have these. And even still, this guy bought a bunch of shoes, sold them, and you know, he hustled. Some guys that are still doing, there's one guy who's sitting on shit, you know, $5-6 million in shoes. And part of me is like, yo, bro, like, amazing you stuck it out, but what a fucking nightmare, dog. Sell your shit, dude. Do something different with your life, bro. Like, what, like, that's all he has, though, you know? Like, with me, it was like, nah, bro, something's better than this.
Yeah, I think part of it is when it comes to all the shit talk, I grew up in a family with 5 boys. So that's basically the way we communicated, right? You could never walk in the room and say, hey, man, I like your clothes, right? It's got to be, hey, man, your shirt looks stupid, right? And that meant that you actually. Italian,
right?
Yeah, of course. And
so fucking kings are talking shit, like, you know?
Yeah. And look, I'm real close to all my brothers, and still to this day, right? You answer the phone and it's like, what's up, loser? Right?
Yeah.
So I hear you on that. I think part of what's so compelling about your story, though, right, is everyone tries to put labels on it. Oh, he was a DJ. He did, you know, the shoes. He's a jeweler, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, like, your entire story, every stop along the way is you're just an entrepreneur, right? It was just constantly pursuing, how do I do something that creates value and leads to revenue or income? Now you're good. And so maybe talk a little bit about just like, at what point did you realize, like, I'm actually conducting business here, right? I'm actually an entrepreneur. It's not just me with like a bunch of side hustles. Like, there's a structure to this, and I can do this in any industry, right? Whether it's DJing, whether it's with shoes, whether it's with jewelry, like, it's the same thing over and over again, just in different industries and creating value.
So what happened was, I never worked in anything I didn't actually have an interest in. People have a hard time becoming successful in one career, like you said, right? I was successful in 3 careers, okay? And one of those careers being 2 side careers, you know? This is how it goes. I never had a wealth manager or a CPA to advise me on how to incorporate myself And once I learned how to incorporate myself and do things like that, I was like, oh my God, why the fuck didn't somebody tell me this, a long time ago? Like I just fucked off, like one, it would have saved me enormous amount of money on taxes and whatever and things like that. But from music early on, I saw where I missed opportunities to make money. I could have sold mixtapes here, boom. What if I sold 5,000 mixtapes? Well, it cost me nothing but my labor and some basic costs, boom, okay, there's obviously the cost to buy cassettes, and these are real mixtapes. But now there's like some bullshit. We're talking about real mixtapes that were like, like they were blended through and there was this and that. Then people elevated it and then all of a sudden they call it mixtape. It's part of a record label and it's like not a mixtape. It's like songs, there's no skit. It was just different. So anyways, going on, I realized the missed opportunities I had as a record executive. When I became a solo DJ, I started to understand, all right, how important it is to market myself. So if you remember that movie American Pie, is that what it's called? I forgot what the dude's name was, but he told that one chick, Natasha Lyonne, I think, to tell everybody he had a really big penis or something, right? And it was like a boom, and it was like a rumor went around, and like, in a way, I was telling people, oh, man, yeah, I'm getting paid like $500-600 a night. 500 was definitely was Mark Ronson. Nobody was getting paid that much at a nightclub back then in the 90s. And like I was telling people, yeah, man, what's crazy, man? I'm going to Paris next week to go DJ this, and this. And I was making up these stories, but I was doing it because I had no other way to promote myself. And people were like, yo, what? And it wasn't like it's Instagram, like, oh, where's the pictures at? There's no fucking cameras back then. Like they barely had the disposable cameras back then, but no one really carried, you had like guys who had a real professional photo, but it was like, it wasn't that common to take pictures of your, I mean, sometimes, yeah, but me, it just wasn't. I know I'm Asian. People are like, oh, the cameras. That was a big joke back in the 80s, 90s and 70s. Japanese people always have cameras around. Whatever. Anyways, I didn't have one. So I started marketing and I developed this folklore of Ben Baller being bigger than he was. It landed me a job in Vegas at the Hard Rock Hotel Casino. I ended up getting a billboard there. That started doing, and I started taking out ads in newspapers, the LA Weekly and smaller ads, like, hey, boom, Ben Baller is doing this week, boom, we'll be at Dragonfly, gonna be here. And I started to realize that was good. Then the sneaker thing was part of my DJing because I was DJing, I was selling weed. The weed money that was cash was going into sneakers. The sneakers, when they got sold or whatever they did, I've washed the cash at that point. They weren't checking shit like that back in the day. eBay wasn't even fucking charging you a fee. PayPal didn't charge nothing. Now PayPal's making sure the taxes are done. You know what I mean? Like they're hitting you. They're recording everything. It wasn't like that back then. Even on eBay had a feature where you were able to look. Let's say, for instance, I'm like, I want to see what Pomp is buying today. Oh shit, Pomp bought some KY jelly. He bought 2 pairs of Nikes. Specific things. I could see everything you bought. I could see the things you're even watching. It was crazy. It was super, like invasive of your privacy. But I was able to I understood like, all right, I got this little thing here. Okay, let's make some t-shirts. And I'm gonna say they're limited edition. I only made 100. Nobody fucking knew I made 500, whatever it was. And we did it and they sold out. And so that was another hustle. And then I created a crew, Air Max crew. There's the sneaker called the Air Max. But then there's the term Mac, which is sort of like a pimp, M-I-C-K. So I called ourselves the Air Max crew. So we were like the Nike pimp crew, right? It was me, this guy named DJ Homicide, who was very famous. He was in a group called Sugar Ray, an enormous rock band, pop band. And then DJ Am, rest in peace, who was my boy. And we had an honorary member who no one even knows this. His name is Demaney. He owned Flight Club. He started Flight Club. At this time, it was called Vintage Kicks. He sold his company for $60 million. It's a lot of money, So we had this crew. I was doing appearances. I was able to market myself without a manager. I had an email address that was my acting manager. No one ever met this person. He's like Charlie from fucking Charlie's Angels, right? And I was just able to keep elevating myself. But as basketball happened, I told you, I wish I had another year. This where I'm at, I wasn't a rapper or certain things where like, after you turn 30, you're like washed up. People don't want to hear your music anymore. Like, oh, you're not talking about drugs and guns anymore and blah, blah. It's harder as you get older to be a rapper to stay credible and stay relevant. So, I never looked at it the entrepreneur side until I sold my collection and I realized, holy shit, I could have did this a long time ago, and not have to sell an entire bulk. I could have did this in a different way, but I understood at that point, anything I'm passionate about, I'm going to find a way to make money. So when I started the jewelry business, even that, I said, we got to create a separate name. We have Friendster and we have MySpace to promote it. And then we have the traditional stuff. We can put flyers out and do certain things and whatever. I could start marketing it, putting on celebrities, of course, that's the best promotion, whatever. And I started realizing, okay, we're big. We got so big that IF&Co, my company, which stands for Internally Flawless and Company, Internally Flawless is technically the best diamond you could possibly get in the world. Our company was originally called IC Fresh & Co, ICEE. And we were using the IC logo, like it's IC, ICEE, it's all melted with ice and everything. And then we had Fresh in a engraver's font, which is like the Cash Money font. And I had them together and putting this out there. IC, the Slushy Corporation, sees that when you Google IC, we were coming up in the top 5. They want to own the top 20 on Google. So they send a cease and desist to us because they're saying that we're confusing people because we're talking about ice and stuff. I'm like, well, ice is a slang for diamonds. You know what I mean? Slang for jewelry. And they're like, okay, we don't care. That happens, boom. We have to restructure. And at that point, I said, all right, man, look, you want to get big? Okay, Tiffany & Co. doesn't sell t-shirts. They don't need to. They have the turquoise box. That's their marketing thing, right? What do we have? All right, we need to go out here and market this shit. So we're making plastic pieces. I started making t-shirts, started doing this. That became, I was making enough side shit that wasn't jewelry. Well, technically the plastic things were t-shirts. That was taking care of our entire payroll, that hustle. So everything else now is just cream on the top. You know what I'm saying? It's fucking icing, literally, pun intended, right? So I started to realize, hey man, you know, IF&Co is dope, but what about Ben Baller, the brand? So I just started to market myself after 08. And, you know, it just every, you know, 5 years or so, even less, I elevate what I'm doing. When I got into the cannabis space, you know, I'm like, hey man, let's see what happens, boom, you know, out there, whatever. There's people who have a lot more followers than me, 5-6 million. I don't know if they're fake or not. Their engagement isn't the same. They don't have the same following. When I did my television show, these people did professional analytics of what my demographic was. And they're like, hey man, look, man, for someone your age, you know, they're gonna have someone strong in their age group. They might have a little bit of people above them and a little bit of people small. You have fucking 12, 16-year-olds. You have the 18 to 24. You have the 24 to 32. You have the 32 to 40. You even have the 60-year-olds. I had such a wide audience that I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is a good thing. So, you know, I didn't have to study my market anymore. And I said, hey, look, anyone 21 and over, I got this new vape pen. You know, it was early on, no one was doing vape. And I was like, I had this cannabis thing, boom. And I wanted to be high end. I didn't want it to be some mediocre shit. I wasn't trying to be the Walmart of weed. I wanted to be the Apple. So I said, you know what? I did gold, platinum, and rose gold. Those are the 3 colors they made available. I had 12 strains, put them out there. Next thing I know, I get an order for 100,000 pens. And my partners who were big in the cannabis space were like, holy shit, Ben, all right, man, this is exactly what we thought would happen. I didn't invest a single dollar in the company. And I was able to get 40% of the company with 30 and 30. But them together, they had a majority share. You know, they're my boys, whatever. Bottom line is, it became insanely lucrative. The cannabis base became big. And again, I was like, yo, we got to do merch. We got to do hats, this, and this. And I gave a ton away. And, you know, I was very passionate about it. I started doing in-store appearances all throughout California. And there'd be 300 to 1,000 people lining outside. And every time I'm like, bro, if you told me even 10 years ago people would line up to meet me, this is the stupidest thing in the world. I can't believe people actually want to meet me. It's silly. And I'm meeting these people, and you know, it's just been really, really good. It didn't get bad until the pandemic happened. One, the technology of pens that I use for our cannabis business is built and based in China. It's called CCell technology, of course. So that shit got stopped, and obviously there was people who were complaining about vaping deaths. Now look, I've never said COVID was a hoax. I've been a big advocate on spreading the awareness for a long time. The vape thing, definitely a hoax. Yes, people are getting sick. Guess what? They were smoking things with pesticides. They forget to say that. They're just saying that all pens are. very poor job on the media's part, because there are people out there that are doing a good job and putting out good product that's pesticide free and listening to the BCC, which is like the IRS, FDA of cannabis. And, you know, we're following the rules, and it just sucked. It killed our business a little bit, but I was able to work around that. And I always am. One door closes, and I could be in an all cement room. Okay, I'm going to fucking laser saw a door and open that bitch. You know, I'm going to figure out a way to do something always. But, you know, I've always figured out a way to come up. Now in the pandemic, we're in a very special space. I could have made a lot of money selling masks and doing certain things. I felt morally, ethically, it was wrong for me to benefit off this. Even if I donated a shit of money, I just felt that ain't it. That's not it, man. And I've seen people make a ton of money selling things like that. And I said, look, man, there's got to be another way. You people don't realize, look, I didn't talk about that until like, you know, a month ago, but right now we're at what, 26 million people have no jobs, or 30, I don't know the exact number, but what I'm getting at is I truly feel like, okay, fine, open the economy back up. Not New York, but open it back up. I did a poll the other day. 89% of people said, we ain't going to no fucking store to sit, some restaurant to sit down and eat. We're not going to no fucking movie theater. I'm not going to get it. They're scared to, whatever, and they have every reason to be. Especially people like me and myself. You know, I'm a smoker. I'm 25 pounds overweight. You know, my son has a very, very high chance of dying from it. So with that said, this shit's going to be bad, and the economy will get worse, worse, and worse. And I'd feel terrible if I accepted money from someone buying certain things. So it's like certain things where I feel like they bring value, you know, or whatever it may be. I have a collaboration with Topps baseball cards. I was a big baseball card collector when I was a kid. And there was a really, really big episode of Gary Vee that he did about baseball cards. I've never followed Gary Vee, heard his name a bunch of times. We have mutual friends. I always felt like, okay, what's up with this dude? Whatever, I don't know. Listen to the episode he talked about baseball cards, and when you're talking about investments under 2000, it was like that was the best, you know, option. I didn't know. So these baseball cards are selling really well. My podcast, by keeping it real, informing people, now that obviously people realize later, holy shit, Ben was right, and we all thought he was a fucking idiot. This fucking guy gave us right information. Like, you know, like we should probably, you know, like give dude his flowers. And with that said, traffic went up. With that, obviously sponsorship money came up, and I started generating real money, you know, more than six figures now, where holy shit, never in a million years, my income from jewelry has stopped. My custom jewelry is there and it's this, but I don't consider that. Like, I don't look at it like, oh, well, I got money here. That's not how it goes. I need to have a positive on every aspect of every business. My cannabis has gone down because we're not essential because it's a vape. Now, if it was my flower company, which we haven't launched yet, that was being launched in March. So it's fucked up. I have 3 enormous collaborations with Takashi Murakami, probably one of the greatest, biggest living contemporary artists on the earth. And like, we made a lot of money then. I had, you know, potentially $1.7 million to make with him. That got canceled for the rest of the year because one of them was in Hong Kong, one is in New York, another one's in Japan. And these collaborations aren't just going to happen. They can't, or they have to be, I don't know how they're going to, but it can't happen now. I had a big show I was doing, so a lot of my money had stopped. So even though podcast is doing well and everything else, I'm not considering, yeah, we should be blessed. We should be lucky. You know what? I don't read very much, but Phil Jackson had said in his book, if you have no expectations, you'll never be disappointed. Fuck that, bro. I demand more out of life. You know what I'm saying? Koreans and Italians have a lot of passion. You know, we talk a lot, we angry, have angry issues, we're aggressive people. And because my retail jewelry business sucks, the custom one's going all right, that might offset each other, but the cannabis business sucks, whatever. So it's like, I don't look at it like it is a blessing. But at the same time, like, all right, how do I do this and figure this out? Because it's going to get worse and worse. How many people are going to go want to buy a $25,000 bracelet in 3 or 4 months? You know, like even the 1% or the 0.001%, they're not spending like that. You know, I see the exotic car industry tanking and things like that. So I'm just in a very unique space right now where late last year, I thought that we're going to have a recession. So I've been saving for that. And I've been worried about that. So I scaled back on a lot. I haven't scaled back on my cell phones. We have 6 cell phone accounts because every one of my kids has a cell phone. Why? Because I'm a fucking idiot. So I got rid of their cell phone accounts. Boom. I had every single channel on DirecTV, and I had like so many different extra boxes. Like, wait, okay. One, We don't need 12 televisions in the house. We have 12 flat screens. It's fucking stupid. Okay. So we need to figure that. But I basically had an overhead of $71,000 a month with my bills before I ate a chicken sandwich. That was my bills. That includes my kids' food, not my personal whatever. I got that down to 47 last month. And I just got it 2 days ago down to 35,000 a month. Now, that means I've cut my entire overhead 50%, and I'm still technically living the same lifestyle I live. And I'm just trying to figure that out as we go venture into new waters. I have to use my entrepreneur skills of how I can do this without, and some people, I understand at this point, if you're fucked up, you're unemployed or whatever, and you're hustling, as long as you're not stealing or you're like selling fucking, I don't know, what's hydroxychloroquine or whatever, or fucking putting, disinfectant in your arms or bullshit like that, as long as you're not hurting anybody, but you're out there hustling, hey man, I can't be mad at you, right? Because people have to feed their kids or whatever. So with that said, I think I've been pushing my podcast. It's the thing I enjoy the most out of anything that I've been doing. I think I've been meant to talk shit, and I was like, you know what? I talk so much shit. I should talk into a fucking microphone and put it out there. It became popular. It's doing well. It's something I can do until I'm 70, 80 years or 60 years old. So I've been focusing on that. Now with the podcast, okay, yes, there's sponsor money here and there. How do we take it to another level? Well, believe it or not, and this happened before the pandemic started, my birthday is January 27th, someone gave me a really small bottle of sanitizer. I'm a germaphobe. For the last 2 or 3 years, I've always carried small ones like an ounce, but I saw this half-ounce size is really small. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I contacted that company in January, and I was like, you know what? I want to make Ben Baller Did the Chain sanitizers for my podcast. I order it, and then this shit happens. So as the bottles are being finished, boom, we're ready to go out. They hit me and say, hey, listen, we can't send you your sanitizer bottles because, we have millions of gallons of sanitizer we have to fill orders in, boom. So I find a guy who can finally do it. So, I'm not going to make a profit. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sell it for $10, $20, whatever. But if I sell my sanitizers at a 1 ounce, 2 ounce size for $3 or $4, which would be anything, I'm just competing against other companies. What do people do after that? Fuck it, that's their problem, right? And I just figured out other ways where I can do things and not fuck people up because it could bring value to them. Like my Ben Baller the Chain appliance collection. Like I have a money counter, I have a gold vacuum sealer, I have things like that. Those items sold out in 8 seconds for $150 to $200. The resale value of them have been from $800 to $1,200. So the things that I'm selling are bringing value to people. My baseball cards, they're $19 for the regular ones. The artist proofs are $99. $99 ones are going for $1,000 1 week after. The regular cards are going for $150. So it's like, look, man, as I've said, everyone hates on old people. They think the old people hate on young people. I just troll a lot and talk a lot of shit. I have a lot of respect for young people, and I've always been attracted, and I gravitated towards younger people because they have very cool, innovative ideas and things. And I don't steal them. I just, I'm like, okay, how do we enhance this? How do we magnify this? How do we monetize? While these people are out there in their early 30s and feel like they're washed up or whatever, I'm still relevant and becoming more relevant at 47, and as I get older. So it's like, I've never been this busy. I've never stayed put in my entire life. In 20 years, I haven't stayed put. I took 118 flights last year. I went on some early flights in January. I did a mandatory one in February, and I canceled everything after that because of my family. But now that I've been staying put for 60 days, right, I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. I've spent so much more time with my kids, even though I'm very hands-on with my family and my 3 kids. There's different types of time. I'm learning things about my children I never knew about, and I'm spending time. But at the same time, now my wife is, the principal of the school. She's the head teacher. I'm the fucking vice principal of school. I'm also a teacher. We have parent-teacher conferences with each other. We get in arguments, and it's just like crazy because, it's difficult because our kids have so much homework. So with that said, that amongst Zoom, amongst my podcast, and taking a lot of meetings for content, I've never been busier. It's crazy. I'm so fucking busy with this. So, I don't know if that addresses the entrepreneur thing, but I've used that to navigate myself through these, and it's helped. Definitely.
Yeah, well, I think part of like, as people have kind of gotten to know you and you've been really public and talked about podcasts and stuff. First of all, you got to make the motto of the podcast, I was born to talk shit. I mean, that's like an all-time motto right there. but as part of like being an innovator and all the innovation that you've done, you got to tell the story about the $10 million Saudi ring, whatever you could say about it. Because I think that was like the one piece of jewelry that you've made that people are like, hey, we got to hear whatever story he's got there that he could tell what's behind that piece. So
with that story, it's like, now I'm doing everything right now. I think had I not made jewelry for Michael Jackson, like the Sultan of Brunei, Dr. Phil, people who were like very outside my hip hop demographic clients, I get a call from somebody, and every time we go out to the nightclubs and stuff in the late 2000s to the early 2010, 11, 12, this, Saudi dude, this Arab guy, he'd come around in the sickest Lamborghinis. And I ain't talking about like supercars, coming in a hypercar. Hypercar is technically anything above, I think, $1 million, right? And he'd have a security guard and certain things, but he dressed like in regular clothes. He'd wear his outfit with the goddamn, I can't think of the word.
With the headdress?
Yeah, but forgot what the anyways, not the turban, but not turban, sorry. But anyways, yeah, the whole thing. And I finally found his Instagram page. I never pushed jewelry on him. I think he always knew what I did. And when I saw the page, I showed my boy, and I was like, hey man, what you know about Dubai and stuff? And I went to Dubai in 2008, but I never and I showed him this picture of my boy wearing all the traditional clothes. When he's in LA, he's not wearing that. Plus, he doesn't like pictures being taken of him, so no one ever takes pictures. They'll take pictures of the car, but he's not. It's part of their culture. They're not supposed to be out there, boom. So I didn't know he was a prince. I had to find out, through his Instagram page. And how I found out was the headwear. It's like red, white headwear. I didn't know that there was like patterns in it. And when you have a pattern in it, those patterns mean something. It could be regular, you feel regular, facility, whatever. But if you see it a certain way, immediately anybody in Abu Dhabi, Saudi, or like, whatever, they'll see it like, holy shit, he's royal family. And my boy, he noticed that immediately. And then he goes, do me a favor, man. He goes, he got car pictures on his page. I was like, yeah, he got some car pictures. So I show a picture of a Range Rover and a Rolls Royce. And he goes, Ben, man, he has a single digit license plate. And he goes, when you have a single digit even to like a 2 or 3 digit, you want even a regular, even a police or a civilian, anyone, a car, you could be rich. You have a Mercedes-Benz or a Rolls Royce. You have to stay at least 100 feet back from that car. Even police have to stay that. You're not allowed to get next to that car, everything else. They have different rules out there. They're royalty, king, right? So I show that shit. One day, the guy who always is his liaison for LA was like, hey man, he's gonna get married. And I'm like, all right, cool, man, dope, man. When's he gonna have a fucking $7 billion wedding? And he's like, no, it's gonna be, traditional. And he needs a backup ring. I'm like, fuck does that mean? And he goes, well, Cartier is making his ring. And I was like, of course they are. Fuck, like, what do you want me for? You know what I'm saying? This shit is like ridiculous. He goes, well, I mean, you're big, and he respects you, and he thinks you're pretty cool, and you do for all these people. He can't tell his mom he likes all these hip hop people, or his family, but like that's what he does on his personal time, and he sees what you're making. Could you make something really cool for his wife to be? And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, in my head, I'm like, dude, this motherfucker's gonna spend $2 million. It's gonna be like $3 million. This will be my, it's crazy. And I had made jewelry for $1 million, $2 million. He hits me with a stone that he wants. And I like to think I'm the biggest thing in the world, right? And then you go to these jewelry trade shows and you realize yes, I'm the biggest popular person. But when it comes to significance in the diamond game, I am so insignificant because people have these booths that have 30, 40, $60 million of diamonds. And there's like not that many diamonds there. And you're like, holy shit. Like the most expensive thing in my store at any given moment might be $250,000 or 400,000, whatever. These people have a $20 million diamond here, 30 million here, 17, 6. Like their shitty shit is like 1.6 million, like the little bullshit. So I reach out to somebody and I say, hey man, I'm looking for this stone here. It's a pink diamond, and I need to get this. I need this color, this everything. And the only thing that they wanted was, they didn't want me to specifically say what it was, because it could kind of genetically go back to the person, whatever. And I could say Prince and say everything else, it just didn't want me, whatever. So going on, I hit my cousin up because he's the part of the back end that deals with the diamond dealers. And we text, and he goes, all right. So he calls me, and I'm like, what's up, man? And he goes, is this a joke, or did you add an extra number on the back end? It was the first number. That's how big the diamond is. I was like, no, bro, it's both numbers. That's the number. And he goes, who the fuck is it? And I said, it's the Prince. And he goes, holy shit. Okay. Let's try to figure this out. So we hit up our diamond dealer, who got us everything. We're like, hey, we're looking for this stone. And the guy goes, get the fuck out of here. I was like, no, I'm looking for the stone. So now it became like a fucking, a whole mission to find this stone. Even the big places like Graff, Harry Winston, Van Cleef, they have a hard time finding a stone the size of this thing. Anyways, I ended up finding it. I had to give somebody $1 million to get the diamond. I'm talking about, they got $1 million for finding the diamond. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? Right? So my cost on the stone, which he understands, whatever it may be, was $6.5 million. So, I made $2.5 million profit just off that ring. And it was fucking crazy. And just my flight there, which was the fucking worst flight I ever had. It was probably second worst flight I ever had in my entire life. Flew private. Private is cool. You're flying if you're on a really big like jumbo jet, yeah, go to New York private. That's not bad. If you're like in if you're in a G4, even flying to like Vegas, LA to Seattle, not bad. Flying to fucking Saudi Arabia is not fun in that motherfucker. Like, it was terrible. Refueling, everything, scary shit. I get there, and I deliver the stone, and at that point, meet his mom, I meet the king, I meet the sheik, I meet them, they all see everything, boom. And they were like, wow, this is a beautiful stone. Mind you, it's fucking 90-something degrees outside. I'm dying. I can't cover my tattoos anymore. I'm like, this is crazy. My head is shaved clean. I made sure I had everything else. My earrings, everything I was wearing was super classy. It's just I had a fucking button-down shirt on. And I'm like, bro, I gotta take my shirt. I can't do this. Oh, don't take, if you want to roll your sleeve, don't take your shirt off. You know what I mean? Because I'm like fucking, I'm like all the way through. He's like, don't. And I was like, all right. His dad pulls me aside. He's like, hey man, I really appreciate it. This is amazing. Leave your information. I was like, well, she has everything, And so the $10 million ring was cool. He spent $10 million in a year with me just on gifts for his family members and shit like that. So it led to a whole different, thing. When I go to Dubai now, and I was there 2 times last year, I was there, a couple times before that. I enter a restaurant. Let's say, for instance, Zuma. Zuma's one of the, it's like, I think Zuma's better than Nobu. Zuma's like, the high-end sushi place. And I'll be at Zuma in Dubai. And I'll order $1,100 worth of food with like another person, whatever. And then no bill will come. And they just knew, and they've taken care of it. I'll go into Cipriani in Dubai, which is much nicer than the original Cipriani on either 42nd or the one in Soho. It's crazy. Anywhere I go out there, it's like I have carte blanche. It's so amazing. It's just like it was a dope thing, And to him, that's nothing. Like when this guy shows me his watches, he'll show me watches. I can even show John Mayer, but have you ever seen this before? He goes, honestly, I haven't. But remember, I even get one-of-one custom bespoke watches made by Patek Philippe or by Rolex. These dudes are getting like, and it's notorious for Saudis. And like even some of the stuff that they have, some of the Gucci things they have, they were made by Gucci for them. And I'm like, holy shit, this was a fucking amazing thing. Being in the right place at the right time and, being able to, but if I didn't find that diamond, he was going to get it from somebody else probably. He'd have to, because that's what she wanted. And on top of that, I would have never met his dad, So it ended up being, it was a beautiful situation, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see how just kind of be in the right place, right time leads to one thing, and then you do a good job, right, and do something that they think's not possible. Next thing you know, it rolls into a whole other part of the business. But that's kind of the whole thing of being an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What are you most excited about once we get out of coronavirus stuff? What's the kind of the things that you're looking forward to most as you kind of keep building this empire of yours?
As crazy as it sounds, I feel like I've probably done, I think there's a couple goals I haven't hit in my life. And a couple of those goals were like, I had aspirations early on to be a billionaire. And then I realized like, man, it's going to happen by a fluke or something for two. And I was like, I'm not trying to be too smart anymore. Let me fucking focus on when I mean smart, I'm not trying to fucking create the next Uber. I just, and there's a lot of proposals to sit here. It's like, listen to demo tapes, right? When I was at A&R, it's like, hey, I got this group, boom, here, I got this idea. Everyone has an idea. Everyone has this. Everyone has this. It's like, man, I have enough wealth to where I couldn't retire and maintain the lifestyle I have, but I have a lot, and because I want my kids to be set up. But my thing is, I'm excited about showing my kids the world, right? With this pandemic now, all three of my kids aren't going back to school for at least 2 or 3 years. So now, which never in a million years did I ever think this was going to happen, they're going to have to be homeschooled now until something happens to where my son doesn't have that risk. If my son didn't have the risk, I wouldn't even give a fuck. I'd be worried about me, but I'm very careful as it is. But because his situation, and my mom, who's old and everything else, I just have to be very careful. So with that said, I want my kids they all have passports. I'm looking forward most to traveling. I want to show them all through Europe. I want to go, I can't wait. But the thing is, again, this is a global pandemic. This is not so it's difficult. I miss being in my apartment in San Francisco and looking over the fucking skyline and looking at, being here and having my little fucking private time to think about this and whatever. And I have 12 custom chains that are backed up right now that, who knows when I'm gonna be able to finish them. But I'm excited for fatherhood. I always say that, and I tell people, I'm a husband and father before I'm for anything else in life, before entrepreneur. That's why I waited so late in life to have kids. I was talking to my boy 2 hours before I talked to you today. And it's just like, fuck, man. He just found out he's going to be a grandfather. And he's 2 years younger than me. And it's just like a lot of my friends' kids are in high school, whatever. And my oldest is 7.5 years old. So it's like, I just started late. But I started late because I wanted to be able to provide for my kids. Now, with that said, I am working less, but I'm working smarter. And, but I'm still working a lot. It's just, I don't have so much tedious shit I have to do. But again, I know it sounds silly, but I'm looking forward to getting on a fucking plane and getting the fuck out of it. I'm going a little crazy, and even though I'm telling people stay at home, it's like, trust me, if I didn't have a big home, and I tell people, look, this ain't a dickhead thing to say. I'd rather tell you what it is and what's on my mind than you think, man, that guy doesn't understand. Fuck you. $0 is $0. When I was broke and homeless, that's $0. I had nothing else. You have a phone, you have a lot of shit. You're entitled. Go fuck yourself. I know it sucks you just lost your job. I'm sorry you live in a fucking 800 square foot apartment. Man, I earned all this. This is, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel bad at all. Will you ever make me try to, shame me for working hard, I want to fight for my family? I prepared for this. This was all planned. So we're here now. And with that said, I just can't wait to, show my kids sports and things like that, or and do it on a bigger level but I do want to get out of the house. I'm excited about my podcast. I'm excited at, meeting more people. Even though I don't want to meet anybody, I want to meet people to talk to them. Because, I've been an enormous fan of Mike Tyson. And, there was a rumor going around that he's like, oh, he's not very smart. He talks like this, whatever. Mike is actually fucking brilliant. He is so insane. The stories, now that the podcast is there, his stories of what he's done is I'm blown away. And, there's a lot of people out there that I want to reach out to, whether it be even, I'm not a big fan of Tony Robbins, but I'd love to get him on the show and talk to him about things. And, even Mark Cuban. I remember when Mark Cuban, when the Dallas won the championship, Mark used to party with us. We used to get fucking, and he was a gangster. I was like, Mark is cool as fuck. But the podcast is I know it sounds silly, but I'm excited for that. I'm excited to just chill. I'm excited to do more stay putting, and But I am excited, obviously, to get on a fucking plane. I do want to go somewhere. I do want to go to an island. I do want to go to the beach. I'll, at least Cabo. Shit, it's 2 hours away. But I do want to get the fuck out of the house. But, you know, I also want to go back to work. One of the beautiful things about my podcast setup is it's professional, but it's still very portable. So I can record a lot of my shows in the hotel room. I can do this, and this. And, you know, that's, I know it sounds boring, but you know, I just wanted to, you know, extend on my travel shit.
Look, I think that's a great life to live. I got 2 questions to wrap up with, and then you get to ask me one to end it. What's the best or most important book you've ever read? I know you say you don't read that much, but what's the one book that you're like, damn, everyone should go read this?
It's completely specific, and it's really crazy. It's a book called Everything You Want to Know About the Music Business. Whether everyone or not, whatever, it's today in 2020. 90% of these kids that are signing deals, whether the age from 17 to, or you know, younger, or the ones that are 22 or getting deals, 90% of them, it doesn't matter if you have a good attorney. The attorney is not looking out for your best interest, no matter how cool you are with them. You know, these deals are structured for you to fail. Now, people are making more money because there's 360 deals, right? Which is crazy. Never in a million years in the 90s could you fucking ever ask an artist to give up your merch or your touring money. Like, no, you give up album sales, you know what I'm saying? Like, boom, like, you know, there's certain things you do. That book is the general basic of everything you should know. It's more than even record executives know. It tells you everything about the business, the fine print, and everything. Once you understand that, you will truly understand how not to fuck yourself. And at that point, after finishing that book 2 or 3 times, every situation you go into and you fail in, you purposely failed in. You wanted to go in there and fuck up your business because someone threw a check for $500,000, not realizing that there was $7 million on the back end, but you needed that money right then and there. You couldn't survive without that money because you had to post a watch or a car on Instagram to look like you were doing okay. But yet, there was other ways to flex. If you had some patience, there'd be other things. There's other deals that people signed because they didn't want to shop around. The first deal came around. But that book, it's by Kashif. There's other people. My boy Clinton Sparks just put out a book about the record business. I didn't read it, and he's my friend, and I don't want to say anything bad, but I don't know how in-depth this book is super in-depth. And the reason why it was important to me was because doing deals in life, you have an attorney, you know? Never in a million years, I think I have an attorney on retainer. And people are like, why? Well, like, 1, I got NDAs. 2, I'm being sued. 3, I have other shit, and I have, you know, contracts I need to let because I don't understand the language on them. And people are like, they're not written in English. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I don't mean English. I'm saying, you know, the terminology and everything and some of these things. So basically, that book changed the way I look at, because you look at somebody who has a lemonade stand, and I don't mean that verbal, I'm saying like a mom and pop or lemonade stand, they don't understand how much more they can enhance that business because they have no, you know, they're just like, oh, it is what it is. No, fuck that. Why go in there? Even if you're doing it for a hobby, you know what? You're going to open a store. You know, your wife is, you know, you're rich and you're like, oh, let me give my wife something to do because she's at home and she's at home mom. She's going crazy. All right. Why do that? I mean, happiness is one thing, sure. But why do that and take a loss or take an L or certain things, you know? There's sometimes you take an L in life. And that's why, I mean, you read that book and you start understanding that because it's not just the technical side, but it's a reason why you take a loss somewhere. Louis Vuitton in this one mall loses about $200,000 a month every month for like 10 years. They've lost $200,000. And people are like, that's the stupidest thing in the world. Why are the doors still open? Because it's the fucking best billboard in the fucking entire world. And their marketing right there is crazy. So them losing there, okay, great. All the other stores are doing well. And I was like, whoa, some people won't see eye to eye on that. And if you have it, boom, it's like you have to really just understand this book kind of taught. It just taught me about business, even though it is the music business. It could apply to film. It could apply to a lot of things, you know? It's just a lot of my people I deal with on a regular basis are part of the music business.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also when you read a book, right? It's not just what's in the book, but what time of your life do you read it to? That's always helpful. What about aliens? Believer, non-believer?
In short, no. In semi-long, look, man, I smoke a lot of weed, man. I've done a lot of mushrooms. I've done a lot of acid. They say what you do LSD like 5 times. I've done acid a lot, man. You know, I went to school in San Francisco. You know, it's like, you know, the Grateful Dead and all that shit. With that said, again, look, man, when someone tries to tell you that the Earth is like a molecule, grain of sand in the galaxy, and this galaxy is like one galaxy, like the fucking the solar system, like that's like one out of like, how the fuck, like, how do you not sit there and get high and think, okay, well, how was the English language created, right? What was the first word? It says, oh, this means fire. Okay, how do you know what this means, and how do you know what fire means, and how do you know what, you know, and you could go crazy thinking about it. Okay, we like fire, stick, I, them, what's them, what's I, you know, like how do you, the language was created at one point, right? And it makes sense to all of us. 2 + 2 = 4. Mathematically, you can understand how it makes that. How is there not another galaxy? Because we're one grain, right? Has to be this, oh, there's no living, no one fucking knows. So yeah, there could be somewhere 70 trillion zillion miles away, and they might have a different language, and that's their language and how it makes sense, whatever, and like, you know, or based on whatever, and they have different, I don't know what it is, and it could be a whole different thing. So I think it's possible, but do I think like ET's here? I don't fucking know, man. I wish there was, you know what I mean? I don't believe in the Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster and shit like that, but I don't know. Why did you ask that question? Just
I ask every single person.
Oh.
And I would say that like 95% or more say, yeah, there's something out there. I don't know what it is, or is it little green men, or is it just some bacteria? You know, there's got to be something. But the only thing I take away from all of it is just, let's hope that we find them, they don't find us, because whoever's the one getting invaded. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's a similar mindset, right? Of just like, the world's so fucking big. How is there not aliens or some sort of life out there? The thing I always go to is like, it's not a question of is there life, it's are they actually more intelligent or more developed than us, right? And my guess is probably not, but I also think that that's somewhat me just wanting to go to sleep tonight thinking that there's nobody out there that's going to come invade the Earth and, you know, kill us all. So what question you get asked me one question to finish this shit up. What one question you got for me?
Let me tell you something funny. I've never heard your show before until the Mark Cuban one. I don't know where that came from, and I just came with my own. Every question I ask somebody on my interviews, the last question I ask them is, hey, ask me anything you want. I've never heard that before my entire life.
Really?
That's weird. That's crazy. Yes, you can ask them. I said, last question, I say, hey, last question. Is there anything you want to ask me? I always say that. I have 2 things to ask you if you don't mind, but that's crazy you said that. First thing is, when did you make your first million, and what was it off, and what was the first thing you bought after that?
Yeah. So when I sold my first company, second company, was the first time that I was like, damn, like this is real, right? And you kind of get in this position where you're just sitting there and you're like, nothing changed, but everything changed, right? It is kind of at the same time. And I actually didn't buy anything. I literally bought nothing.
Ooh, you suck. And I was like, what year was this?
Here's why. Here was my logic. It was one of these things where I was in the military for 6.5 years, right? And when I came back, I'd already gotten a lot of the like, I want to go buy shit out of my system. So I went to Iraq for a year, made a bunch of money, you know, for a kid at 20 years old at the time, all tax free. And, you know, it's not a lot of money for real, but when you're 20 years old, coming back and you've been in college, all this stuff. And so I bought a motorcycle, you know, I bought a gun, you know, all this kind of crazy shit. And it was one of these things where I remember, you know, I'd be flying down the highway on a Ninja and doing all this crazy stuff. And then after like a year or 2 of that, you kind of get it a little out of your system, and you start to realize like, hey man, if I keep doing this, like there's a chance I might die. Right? Like I got in a very minor motorcycle accident. Like literally in a parking lot type thing, right? Which is just enough to cut open my chin, whatever. And you're like, oh shit, like I'm lucky that I was going 15 miles an hour, not, you know, 75 miles an hour. And so I think I just like got a lot of that out of my system. And then you overlay it with all the military stuff, like that's like the adrenaline rush of adrenaline rushes, right? Is kind of all the combat stuff. So I think that it's just one of these things where I was kind of over it at that point, and I just kind of had a different bent. But at the same time, I look back and I hear stories of guys, I ask pretty much every guy who comes on who's a billionaire, I say, hey, what'd you do when you first realized you had $1 billion? They got wild stories, right? And it's kind of like the excitement of that.
I said, if I become a billionaire, I'm going to have my head removed. I'm going to make it look like Optimus Prime, or I might do like, I don't know, something crazy. It's going to be all metal though. And then on top of that, I'm never going to walk ever again. I'm just going to have people carrying me everywhere I go. I'm sorry. So my second question, but the funny thing is, let me go back to you real quick. I was an avid motorcycle rider since I was 8. Even living in the hood, we had dirt bikes in the hood. I was in a motorcycle gang. I rode bikes heavily. I had a Hayabusa. I did 195 on it. I don't think I left my house and did under 160 on a motorcycle in traffic even. And when I had my first kid, there was my wife knew I'm a hooligan. I've been on the news 3 times, being chased by helicopters, high-speed chase, and I got away every time. And I had to get rid of the bike. So I was crazy with bikes. Anyways, my last question is do you think there's any correlation between 5G and coronavirus?
Oh, no, I'm probably not there on that one. Here's my take is, so I was real early in taking it more serious than others. I won't say that I was like full on super serious, but there's a picture in January. Last year I did 120 flights. So you and I are very similar in that we took a bunch of flights last year. My goal for 2020 was to not travel that much. So I had to take one flight in January to go to this board meeting in San Francisco. And I went in New York to go find the like N95, like the real good masks. And they were all sold out. And I was like, that's weird. So I ended up, the only thing I could get was like one of these construction, like dusk masks.
Yeah.
So I said, look, it's better than nothing. And I was super freaked out. I'm really not a germaphobe, but just for whatever reason, I was like, man, this kind of freaking me out to get on this plane and sit there, breathe the same air with everybody, all this stuff. So I get on the plane, put the mask on, take a picture, screwing around, post on the internet. Everyone's like, oh, you're an idiot, whatever. And now I'm looking back, hey man, I got proof. Back in January, this shit was,
nobody knew that.
But here's the thing is, to me, it was less about like, I thought it was this serious. It was just more of like, why not be overly cautious? But the big moment for me was when Zero Hedge is like a big Twitter account. It had like 800,000 followers or something. They were one of the first people to really surface the idea of the coronavirus, Wuhan, the virology lab there in Wuhan, and like start trying to like really like highlight some of these data points. And I remember saying, look, the odds that the like conspiracy theory is true is very low, right? At the time, probably 5% or less. But I said, there's more information here than we've currently been told. That seems like a pretty big, important fact that I haven't heard yet, right? That there's a virology lab that studies coronaviruses in the city where the outbreak happened, whatever. And so it just set me off on this path of like, man, I got to learn about this myself because I'm questioning the information that I'm receiving from the traditional sources. And so I think 5G coronavirus falls into that. The lab falls into that. It's hard to tell what's true and what's not true, right? But it just, I walk away just knowing that like, we're probably not getting all the information, and that's upsetting.
Hear me out. I don't know who the CEO of T-Mobile is. I don't know who the CEO of Verizon is or the CEO of AT&T. Currently, the actual only company that carries real 5G is T-Mobile in the country. Just because your iPhone says LTE 5G does not mean you're getting 5G on that phone. I found that out. Why would the CEO of Verizon in America want to kill his family? Because there's no way to get, you can't, you're going to get radiation, period. You're putting them up. People see the towers going up. They're not going up like that. That's one thing. Number two, you can't handshake somebody and all of a sudden 5G, boom, guess what? Now they got 5G. That's not how it gets, transmitted. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing. But coronavirus is in currently 214 and more countries in the world. 5G is not even in 100 countries. So that's why I want to understand, how do you explain it? Like, it can't travel again. You can't cough on somebody and now all of a sudden they got the 5G and their immune system's weaker now and things. But do you know what I'm saying? It's just, it sounds so fucking crazy. Like, I couldn't imagine being the CEO of, or the founder CEO of Verizon and being like, yo, you know what? We're going to put these 5G towers up, and then my son, my grandkids, they're all going to get sick because of it. It just sounds fucking crazy. I was just curious what you thought, and I just, nah, it's
yeah, I'm definitely, I think that part of this is people are sitting at home and they're bored, They ain't got shit else to do, right? So it's like, what crazy things can we come up with?
You know what's funny? After everyone got their stimulus checks, no one talked about it. I've heard, in fact, I've heard I've heard less and less talk about it. But right before that, it was just going ham, and I was like, oh my God.
I don't know if you saw this video. I'll have to send it to you. Somebody went and they basically went through like Black Twitter, right? And they found all these people who were tweeting who had been like very anti Donald Trump and the current administration and all this stuff. And then when those checks hit, there was people tweeting like, "Ah, damn, you got my vote, bro. Like, you know, you a real one for this," and like all this stuff because they were saying that they got their Trump bucks. And I was sitting there and they made a whole like montage of this thing. And I was just laughing because I was saying, listen, this is the game of the internet now, right? As you go and you pick up a bunch of pieces of information and you can twist it however you want to tell whatever story. And I was just sitting there and I was just like, that's probably going to be one of the biggest things that we have to pay attention to over the next few years is just what information are you getting and how accurate is that information, right? Because you can literally make the internet say anything.
Scary, man. It's scary, man.
Absolutely. All right, where can we send people? Where do you want them to go after they listen to this?
You know, obviously any social platform. I'm at Ben Baller, just like it says, BenBaller. But what I'd love people to do, because we're obviously in the same thing, and I don't look at like competition or anything. We are obviously two different people. But I'm just in the business category. But if you go to Apple or go to Spotify or go to Stitcher, go to anything, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you know, listen to Behind the Baller. Because Behind the Baller means it's no jewelry, no flash. It's more my journey getting there, my journey where I'm going, me being a husband, me being a father, me being a Renaissance man, how I help people get free game. I like to talk about people. There's people who are celebrities on my show, of course, most of them are. But like I have people on my show who were bottle waitresses and then now own a $25 million logistic company somehow, some way. And you hear these stories and it's like, I want everyone to understand that if you apply yourself and you are smart, you know, it's possible. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know, but you have to at least look at things half glass full. You know, it just. I would love you to send people to Behind the Baller podcast, and other than that, man, look, man, I'm a big supporter of you now because you know we've had a really cool conversation.
Absolutely, Behind the Baller, born to talk shit. I love it. All right, man. Well, I'll definitely link to it in the show description, and we'll send people that way. I appreciate doing it.
All right, thanks, man.